Hi, I'm Grace, trapped with zombies. Hi, I'm a zombie, trapped with Leon. Hello, I'm Leon and I'm... So last time, everything went wrong. Leon got infected, Emily didn't make it, and Grace went with Victor and Zeno. So we're picking up right where we left off and heading straight to Raccoon City. Because earlier we found data on Victor's laptop, pointing straight to Raccoon City. And if we want to save Grace and find out what Elpis really is, we have to fight our way through that city. And yeah, this is where things get really bad. So I arrived in Raccoon City and the whole place was completely destroyed. And as I started exploring, it was just way too quiet, which already felt wrong and is never a good sign because it's just never a good sign. But that didn't last long, because then I started seeing some small spiders. Nothing crazy, but then there were more. And more. And that's when I realized something was off. Because if there are some small spiders, there's always a bigger one somewhere. And yeah, I was right. Because suddenly a giant spider showed up. And the boss fight started, and honestly, it wasn't even that hard. Just really annoying. Because this thing just wouldn't leave me alone. Constantly jumping around, spamming attacks until finally it went down. And just like that, everything went quiet again. And that's when we moved into the next area, where I found a new upgrade station, which was actually perfect because I could finally upgrade my weapons and have a bit more fun dealing with all these zombies. Where our new goal was to find a detonator and its 3 corresponding parts to blow up a gate and reach the center of the city where Gideon and all the other things are at. But at this point, this part just turned into the same thing over and over again. Just me and way too many zombies. Until finally I found the first detonator, which meant I still needed 2 more. And while I was looking for the second one, things got really messy again. Because I ran into a huge group of zombies. Everything just turned chaotic, and then out of nowhere, I ran into this chainsaw enemy.
What the hell?
That fight was actually crazy, where we literally just fighting each other with chainsaws, like complete idiots. And I barely made it out alive, but after the fight I found some fuel. I thought this might lead me to the next detonator, but it was just the way to the next area. But then things suddenly got a lot worse, because now they weren't just regular zombies anymore. They were actually using guns. And yeah, some of them even had... See for yourself. They weren't just using normal weapons. Some of them even had freaking rocket launchers. Also, there is some deeper story here about Raccoon City being destroyed, but since I never played the older games, I had no idea what was going on, so I'm not going too deep into that. But at least I finally found the second detonator part. So I prepared for the final area, upgraded my weapons again and took a cable car to get there. And as soon as I arrived, I realized the entire floor was made of glass. And we were way too high up, so when the zombies started showing up, I could shoot the glass and watch them fall down. But I had to be careful, because at any moment the glass could break under me too. And yeah, I found that out the hard way. And from there I just had to fight my way through even more zombies, until I finally found the last detonator. But getting out of there wasn't that easy, because the only way down was this broken elevator. And while it was moving, zombies just kept moving down from above, like they were just waiting for me down there. But I made it out alive, which meant I finally had all 3 detonators, so I used them to blow up the path to freedom. We even got more good news because Leon found a motorcycle. And while I was driving to my next objective, Victor suddenly showed up on his own motorcycle and pulled out a freaking rocket launcher. So now it turned into a full chase, with a few explosions while I was dodging everything. And as a bonus, we even had a pretty nice view. Until it was finally time to face Victor. We both just stopped and ended up standing in front of each other like some kind of medieval duel. But it was just so dumb.
Should've worn a helmet.
It follows another nostalgia area, the RPD. an old location where Leon once started his duty as a young police officer, but now it was completely destroyed. While I was looking for more information, I suddenly ran into Zeno and Grace. And they were talking about the Elpis virus, which I still had no idea what that even was. But according to Zeno, Elpis is a powerful virus, created by Oswald Spencer, the Decay's mastermind, and they believe that Grace is the key to it. But before I could even process any of that, and Mr. X suddenly showed up, and I had to run for my life, or at least, I tried to. Until suddenly, he started throwing explosive attacks at me, and that's when the boss fight began. But the boss fight wasn't as hard as I expected, because I could just parry his attacks with my axe, and then follow up with the revolver. So he went down pretty quickly. So after that short battle, Prio number uno was clear, to stop Zeno and save Grace. So I casually jumped off a train that was falling into a canyon, only to end up sliding down an endless cable, even deeper into the abyss, where I ran into these plant-like enemies and had to fight my way through them, until I reached this large security door with an umbrella logo on it, which opened way easier than I expected, like, surprisingly easy. And behind it, an underground laboratory. This time with actually human soldiers, but most of them weren't too difficult to deal with. Expect this one with a shield, who can just f*** himself. Meanwhile, Grace was with Zeno in a room surrounded by Dragon Balls, standing in front of a device that contained the Elpis virus. She was supposed to enter a password, but she didn't even know what it was, and there was only one attempt. Otherwise, the whole thing will self-destruct. Obviously. But then Leon stepped in, which started a fight against Zeno. And that fight was actually pretty tough and also a bit gross. So I had no choice but to escape with Grace, and we managed to get away, using some kind of metal structure. And we ended up into a junkyard. Leon told Grace that he was getting too weak, but he still wanted to destroy Elpis, even if it was the last thing he did. So Grace had no choice but to go into the lab alone and find a way forward for him. And since Leon barely gave me any ammunition, I entered the next area with almost nothing, where I then spotted my enemies for this area. Lickers. Fast and extremely annoying enemies. Their weakness was acid, but even then they were still hard to kill, and after dying once, I realized that sneaking was the better option. And do you remember the Mo disc that Grace's mom left behind and which Grace left lying in a burnt hotel for 8 years? Now we can finally use them here and take a look at what's so mysterious on them. Grace finds some recordings of an interview with her mother and Oswald Spencer. He was supposed to be the mastermind behind everything, and the creator of the virus known as Elpis. But in this interview, we learn two things. First, Spencer suddenly regrets everything and reveals that Elpis wasn't actually a virus, but a cure. Something closer to hope. And second, we see a baby in his arms. A baby that turns out to be Grace, meaning she wasn't anything special after all, but just a normal child. And after that, the game switched back to Leon. Since Grace had already opened the way for him, he fought his way through more leakers. But at some point, he suddenly collapsed, right in front to Elpis. Yes, the place from where Grace and Leon had spectacularly escaped earlier. And when Grace saw it on camera, she rushed over to help him. And together, they went to face Zeno, who was apparently just staying there the whole time. Zeno is far too cool and arrogant to do anything other than just waiting. And while Leon is left to die on the floor, Grace has to face a fate. The password clue you need to answer here is, what does the creator desire? AKA Spencer. From the recent interviews, we know that Spencer longed for hope. Knowing that Elpis is a cure and not a virus, hope is exactly what I type in. And there it is, Elpis, which Zeno immediately grabs and injects into his veins, as he still assumes that it's some kind of new virus that would give him control over the infected. But to his surprise, instead of becoming stronger, he was suddenly cured and was just a normal human again. And right after that, Victor appeared again, somehow still alive after the crash, and started laughing at Zeno, saying that Elpis makes all virus-based weapons useless, and that this would change everything, which led into the final fight. After Grace finally managed to heal Leon, the fight against Victor began.
Spencer's vision lives through me, and I will see.
But Victor quickly descended from the platform, only to climb back up shortly after, as the so-called nemesis for the final boss fight. And even after he transformed into a stronger form, it's still pretty manageable for a final boss fight. So in the end, I defeated him with the one-liner,
You ain't getting back up.
Everything started collapsing and there was no way out, until we got rescued at the last second.
Kennedy, I have a message from Captain Redfield.
Grace was injured and all she got was a blanket, which somehow seemed to be enough because the only thing she could think about was that Emily was gone. And even though she thought Emily was gone, Leon told her he didn't hit any of her vital spots. And somehow Emily survived as well. And later on we even see them together again. And honestly, the ending felt a bit too happy for me, but overall, we actually finished Resident Evil Requiem. And I actually managed to complete the game. Honestly, this video took an incredible amount of work. So if you made it this far and maybe even felt entertained, please let me know in the comments and consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.